So the 2020 NBA draft just wrapped up last night, and in the 2 rounds that happened, there were some winners and then there were some losers. And today I'm going to be giving you a couple teams that I think were winners in last night's draft and a couple teams that I think were losers pretty much. Now, for the losers part of this, I'm not saying that they drafted bust because I'm not going to call anybody a bust at the moment. The reason I have them in the loser section is either they made a trade that I really thought they either overpaid for or didn't really make sense, or they drafted a player that I thought they could have gone a little bit down, so they could have either traded down or they just reached on that said player. And for the winners, it's pretty much, I think they got a steal with who they drafted at that pick. They either that or they didn't overcomplicate the pick and they took the right guy, or they made a trade as well and it really worked out for them in my opinion. So if I called your favorite team a loser from the draft, it's not because I think they drafted a bad player, it's because I think they either reached on that player or just one of the reasons I said before. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the first winner I'm going to mention from last night is the Dallas Mavericks. So to start off, I love their draft picks. We'll get into those in a second, but they made a trade last night that was pretty big. They ended up trading Seth Curry to the Philadelphia 76ers for mainly Josh Richardson in return. Dallas also got pick 36 in this trade. At first, I was like, wow, they're trading Seth Curry, arguably their best shooter on the team, who's a great spot-up presence for Luka Doncic. But around Luka at the moment, they still have so many good shooters in KP, Maxi Kleber, Tim Hardaway Jr. And I expect them to go after like a Danilo Gallinari or somebody like that in free agency. So I like the trade here for Josh Richardson, who massively upgrades their defense, which they need help on that side of the ball. And Josh Richardson is still a good shooter nonetheless. So I think this was a pretty solid trade for both teams. I'm not hating on Philly either. I really like this trade for them as well, but I like this for Dallas, and we're just going to start off that for them. So their first pick out of the 3 they ended up making last night was Josh Green, the wing out of Arizona. Funny enough, this and James Wiseman to the Warriors were my only 2 correct first-round mocks, but I'm a huge fan of this pick to the Dallas Mavericks. I think Josh Green has a ton of upside. He was a solid defender at Arizona, but he has the tools, the size to definitely be a good defender in the NBA on the perimeter guarding other wings. So if he can kind of replace Dorian Finney-Smith down the line as your go-to perimeter defender, I'm not saying he's going to be that right away, but I like the potential of that. I also like his spot-up shooting potential, and I think having that around Luka Doncic, obviously for the next 10 years, Luka is going to be your primary ball handler, and if he's there above the break, in the corner, ready to get a spot-up 3 from Luka Doncic, I think that is a huge addition for Dallas. Next up, they took Tyrell Terry, the sharp-shooting point guard out of Stanford at 31. If you watched my draft live stream, you would know I really wanted the Knicks to take him at pick 25, and they took Emmanuel quickly. But I love this pick for the Mavericks. It provides even more shooting for them, and that's maybe why they were like, okay, we could trade away Seth Curry. We just brought in a good shooter, Josh Green and Tyrell Terry. We can go out and get some defense in Josh Richardson. I think this was incredible value for the Mavericks at 31. I thought there was a potential chance he could have went into the lottery. I think he's a top 20 player in this draft, and they got him at 31. And finally, they took Tyler Bay, the wing out of Colorado, at 36. I think an incredible value pick here as well. I thought he could potentially go at the end of the first round. Early second, so he went pretty much where people expected him to go, but he's a good inside scorer. He's good with the ball in his hands, and I think he could be a nice spark for their second unit for years to come. I'm going to give their grade. You guys, if you watched my draft grade video, you know I gave them a high grade, but this trio, while getting Josh Richardson, job well done to Donnie Nelson and Tony Ranzone. For my first loser, it is going to be the Utah Jazz. So they ended up trading down with the New York Knicks at pick 27 to select Udoka Azubuike, the center out of Kansas. I don't mind Azubuike as a player, but I think the Jazz have so many needs, especially on that second unit, either as a backup primary ball handler. I think they could use an upgrade over Emmanuel Mudiay, and just another spark off the bench and scoring. Really, your only offense came from Jordan Clarkson and Georges Niang last year from the bench, and I guess you can either consider Joe Ingles or Royce O'Neal who's ever coming off the bench, but they could have used a nice scoring upgrade there with some options on the board, like Tyrell Terry, like Jaden McDaniels. There was some good options for them there. So I think Azubuike, they could have gotten with the second round pick they got from the Knicks in the trade down, and they could have taken like a Jaden McDaniels here, so I wasn't a fan of the Azubuike pick at 27. They ended up taking Elijah Hughes, the wing out of Syracuse, at 39, which I didn't mind actually. I thought that's pretty much where he would go in the draft. He's a crafty scoring wing. You might consider him more of a guard than a forward, but I was a fan of this pick. But the biggest thing I wasn't a fan of that Utah did was trade Cash, Tony Bradley, and 38 to Detroit for future considerations. So the Jazz are, I guess, worried about going to the luxury tax, and they want to bring back unrestricted free agent Jordan Clarkson, and I get that, but I'm just not a fan of trading away Tony Bradley. But I guess that makes a little bit of sense, moving Bradley, because you just drafted Azubuike. I get that, but also having to package the 38th pick along with that, I just wasn't a fan. I thought it was a little bit cheap on the Jazz's ownership right there to make that move. They're coming in as my first loser. Back to the winner's side, we have the Sacramento Kings. Boy, did I love them getting Tyrese Halliburton at 12. He was my 5th ranked prospect going into the draft, and getting him at 12 I think is immense value for Sacramento. I don't know if they're going to still end up trading Buddy Hield. A lot of people are rumoring him to go to Philly, but with them getting Seth Curry, I don't think that's happening. But even if he's going to be like your 6th man coming off the bench, I think that could be huge for them. He's kind of a perfect player. He's the most complete player. Now, he's not perfect in everything, but he's a good shooter. He's a good ball handler. He's a good defender. He's a good passer. He's got great basketball IQ, great vision. On the defensive end, he's good off the ball. He's good on the ball. He's a great character. I think this is an A+ home run out of the park for Sacramento. And then in the second round, Sacramento also killed it with their 2 second-round picks. Getting Robert Woodyard at 40, I think, is another great value pick. I thought he was going to go at the end of the first round. Getting him 10 picks into the second round, I think, is incredible value for a good defensive and scoring wing who could play the 4 and the 3. He could definitely guard 2, 3s, and 4s in the NBA. Just A+ right there from Sacramento. And then also snagging Jahmi'us Ramsey, the scoring guard out of Texas Tech, is such a low risk, high reward pick for at 43, because he could be a pretty good scorer for them off the bench. You could see him averaging maybe 10 to 14 points in his first 4 years. One of those years, I think he can average close to 10 points. And if you're getting that out of pick 43, maybe 14 was a little too high, I digress. But if you're getting somebody that can average one day 10 points in the NBA as an efficient guard off the bench, you in the second round, especially at pick 43, you aced it. So back to the loser side. I'm sorry, we're going to have the Chicago Bulls. I feel bad for calling teams losers because I really, especially the Bulls, because I like Patrick Williams a lot. I just thought at pick 4, it was a little high. I think he's a really good player. I view him more of a power forward, like a stretch 4 in the NBA, and I don't know his fit with Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. I'm guessing they're going to try to incorporate him at the 3 with LaVine and White in the backcourt and Markkanen and Carter Jr. in the frontcourt. I think he's a very good player, and he could be one of the best players in this class. I just thought at 4, my initial reaction was like, ooh, that's a little too high. There was some reports that Detroit really liked him at pick 7. So if you could have done that, maybe why not try to trade down? Maybe to 5 or 6. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't trade down to 5. It's a 6. Call Atlanta. But if that's your guy, that's your guy. I just thought it was a little bit of a reach at 4. And then they took Marko Simonovic here at pick 44. And it was funny because people Googled who he was and it said he was 35 years old. So Bulls fans were freaking out. I just think it was just not a weird pick. I was just I don't even know if he's going to come over and really be an impact at 44. I thought there was just a couple players left on the board. Why not grab Paul Reed here, who is still on the board, or Miles Powell? I just like them over Marko Simonovic. I'm saying this and watch him be the next second round 4 and stud like Nikola Jokic, but I digress, and I just think the Bulls were slight losers in this draft. Our third winner is the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll start off with the other end of the Seth Curry-Josh Richardson trade, where the Sixers picked up Seth Curry. I love this. Dude, defense is not going to miss Josh Richardson, who's a good defender, but they already have Matisse Thybulle, they have Danny Green, they have Ben Simmons, who can guard the perimeter on defense. So getting something they need desperately, shooting, is absolutely huge. Daryl Morey did a great job adding shooting last night, getting Seth Curry, and also trading Al Horford for Danny Green. So you're getting shooting and defense from Danny Green, and it only costs them to give up 1 future first-round pick that is top 5 or 4 protected, and then I think that's in 2025, and by 2027, if it still isn't conveyed, which means the Sixers would be bad, then it would go to 2 second-round picks. So I think that's crazy good value for Daryl Morey to get off of Al Horford's contract, one of the worst contracts in the NBA, and only giving up 1 future first-round pick and acquiring somebody that will help them win now next year. And Danny Green, great job to Daryl Morey and the Sixers front office. At pick 21, Philadelphia got Tyrese Maxey. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Tyrese Maxey, but this is where I expected him to go at. But I think he's actually a solid fit for Philly. I just don't know his position, really, what's going to be in the NBA, because he's too small, I think, to guard 2s, and he's not good enough of a passer on offense to be a point guard, so he's kind of in the middle, kind of like a Colin Sexton type. He definitely needs to improve his shooting, but I think he will in the NBA because his jump shot looks really good. He was a good free throw shooter. He's a good ball handler. He definitely has the defensive potential to be a good defender, mainly on point guards. I think on 2s, it'll be tough, but he'll get there, especially learning from great defenders as Ben Simmons, Thibault and a good coach in Doc Rivers. So I like this pick here for Philly. I would have preferred Tyrell Terry, but Tyrese Maxey, I'm definitely fine with that going to Philly. And then I love their 2 second-round picks, getting Isaiah Joe at 49. I know they promised him that they were going to take him, and people thought, oh my God, are they going to take him at 21, which would have been a huge reach, but getting him at 49, same thing with Jameis Ramsey, a guy who could score off the bench. Hey, if he turns out to be a 10-point per game scorer, that's efficient, providing you offense off the bench, you aced it at 49. And then one of my favorite players in this draft, the third to last drafted player, Paul Reed out of DePaul, a bruiser, big man, great rebounder. He has a high motor. He hustles up and down the floor. He's a good inside scorer. I don't know if he'll ever amount to much in the NBA. Unfortunately, when you're picking in the 50s, it's very hard to do that. But I'm a big fan of Paul Reed, and I think he could shine as maybe the backup big and maybe replace Norvel Pelle down the line, possibly. So I have another winner here, and it is the Memphis Grizzlies. They came in the draft with 1 second-round pick, and they got 2 players that I had first-round grades on. They ended up trading to get pick 30 from the Boston Celtics to take Desmond Bane, who's one of the best shooters in this draft. I thought he could go as high as like 20 to the Miami Heat or 18 to the Dallas Mavericks, and they got him at 30, an exceptional sharpshooter out of TCU. He could be a nice backup to Dylan Brooks or just maybe come in as a specialist shooter off the bench. Job well done by Zach Kleiman and that Grizzlies front office. And then at pick 35, they got Xavier Tillman out of Michigan State. He was one of my favorite bigs in this draft. After Wiseman and Okongwu, like the true fives, it was end up like Isaiah Stewart, Zeke Naji, Daniel Toro, and Tillman. I had Tillman over Isaiah Stewart, who went 16 to the Pistons. So I am a fan of his game, and I think getting him at 35, like all my winners, and mainly their second round picks, immense value. And then I'm gonna have one more loser, and it is the Houston Rockets. Now, I know they didn't make any draft picks last night, and that's kind of why they're coming up on this loser list, because they traded Robert Covington, all right, their third best player, to get 2 first-round picks from the Blazers. 1, I love that trade for Portland. 2, all right, so I get it for Houston. They want to save a little bit of money. They ended up getting 2 first-round picks for Rocco. That's all right, but at 16, they could have drafted so many different wings that could have helped them try to compete next year. I'm like, are they giving up on next year? I don't know if that trade meant like, all right, like, yeah, Harden might be gone. Russ might be gone. But you don't think Sadiq Bey could have helped out your team? You really did attach Trevor Ariza and 16 as a salary dump? And I know they got a first round back from the Pistons, but that's going to be protected. Who knows what pick that's going to be. Could be in the 20s one day. It could be out of the lottery. Couldn't convey to 2 seconds. But, like, I don't know. I just really wanted Houston to take somebody that was still on the board, like a Sadiq Bey or a Josh Green at 16 to help improve their team for next year. But no, Tillman Fertitta, just a little bit of a cheapskate and made that trade. So that's why they're coming in as my third loser. But yeah, that's going to be for me. I hope you guys enjoyed my winners and losers of the NBA draft. If I didn't mention a specific winner that you think was one, let me know in the comments below, and same with the losers as well. Thank you all for the support on the draft grade video. I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like on this draft video. Tomorrow we're going to have another double upload. Yeah, I uploaded 3 times with a stream yesterday, double upload today, and you're getting a double upload tomorrow with an Obi Toppin Knicks rebuild and my official 2020 free agency prediction video. But also, if you want to see any other draft content, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. Link to that is in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you guys sticking to the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.